Diaz Gunners Collective TV. Back at it, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack addict. Bye. And in Menudo style and direct fashion, we're going to get straight into the content of the day. But before we do, let's hit that like and subscribe button. Ding. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content I'm kicking. And I highly appreciate all the support, man. We're going up on this channel, and it's all because of you. And for that, I can say I'm very humbled, and I'm very much so appreciative. So, gracias. I know I couldn't do without you. So, let's talk Bulldogs, right? Let's talk Bulldogs, and let's talk Adam 16 and the no jumper interview. Because a lot of people in my live yesterday asked me to reflect on it, to talk about my perspective, my 2 cents, and what I think. And since my name was mentioned, why not, right? And of course, I knew it was going to be mentioned. It was going to be mentioned for several different reasons. The first reason being that I was one of the first content creators that said the Bulldogs were next up on no jumper, that they were going to pull up. And why is this? Because I'm tapped in with Fresno. I'm tapped in with a lot of the old school F-14 or Bulldogs. And having done time with a lot of them, I hear things, right? And one of the Bulldogs got at me, was like, hey, the little homie Fade 300 from College Street's going to pull up to no jumper. This is solidified. This is already in cement, homie. This is what's going to happen. Go ahead and leak that. Go ahead and throw that out there. So I was like, yeah, for no other reason. So about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago, I said, hey, after I think it was the Big Tone interview, I said the Bulldogs are next up. And there were so many people that, nah, Bulldogs ain't going to do that. Bulldogs do what they want. And exactly, that was the reasoning behind it. I said, exactly, that's why I know they're going to do this. Do I condone it? Do I think they should? Probably not, because I don't think it's beneficial. But it is what it is. That's the plan, man. And of course, man, I got a lot of grief and a lot of people that said, no way, it ain't gonna pop. And then it did, you know, so thank you. I'll take my flowers now. But also I knew my name was gonna be mentioned because I have a history with Fade 300's father, Shorty from college, right? And I knew once Shorty was mentioned on the interview at No Jumper, that definitely, you know, I was gonna, my name was gonna be mentioned in some capacity, in some form or fashion, right? You know, I did time with Shorty, and he was a solid homie. He was solid, and this is back when Norteños and Bulldogs were one and the same. You know, and I remember Shorty, man, from the east side always being, you know, short. That's definitely right. And to hear that he's now paralyzed and in a wheelchair, it's unfortunate. You know, all our lives, this group of guys, this group of young boys that were sent down south to Fresno, to the youth authority, we all took different paths in life. Some of us stood in the hood in the barrios. Some of us went to prison. Some of us learned our lessons and moved on. Some even became lawyers. Shit, it just is what it is. But I knew once Fade 300 got up there, man, somehow, some form or fashion, my name was going to be mentioned, because I did, in fact, do a video where I mentioned his father. I've done several videos where I mentioned his father, because it's only right that, you know, I tell the truth in these stories, that I tell you who was there, and I was definitely there. You know, there's a fact that can't be denied. So, you know, once Shorty got mentioned, you know, I knew they were going to mention my name, and they did. And it's no big deal. Oh, man, I'm mentioned on No Jumper. Fuck No Jumper. That's how I feel about it, right? I don't promote that channel whatsoever. I don't want to be on that channel. What I want, man, is people to understand that every time you go on there, you're taking a risk and a chance. You know, you're taking a chance that this interrogation that's going on, if you don't see it for what it is and correct yourself in answering certain questions, you could quite possibly in the future get caught up just based off that video. That's what it is, man. It's a fact, because at the end of the day, Adam's going to ask us questions, and he's going to ask the questions that people want to hear. But it's not on Adam totally. It's solely up to the people that sit down there, that make themselves present, what they're going to say, how they're going to answer these questions. You know, to me, some of these questions that get answered, I would just get up and walk out. Like, bro, you're digging too deep. Are you trying to fucking get me a fucking a RICO? Are you trying to get me indicted? That's how I would feel. Because it doesn't seem like an interview. It seems like more of an interrogation without your rights getting read to you. That's why people would be able to beat it, because he's not reading you your rights, right? But anyways, I watched the video just this morning. You know, I didn't want to give it no attention last night. I was busy. But first and foremost, I want to say respect to the Fresno Bulldogs, as always. You know, they do what they want, not do what they can. And they've always carried themselves that way. They're against the grain, and no one's going to dictate their program. That's understandable. And I know there's a lot of people that are hurt by the fact that the Bulldogs got a little bit of shine. I'm not. It's well deserved. You know, after so many years in the trenches and having done time with them and knowing what they're about and knowing what the city of Fresno's about, you most definitely should give them their flowers. You know, you don't have to like them, but you should respect them for the fact that after so many decades of guerra, so many decades of going at it with norteños and Southsiders, sureños y todo, that these guys are still maintaining. They're still around. They haven't been eradicated. There's a lot of people that have came and went in the game that are no longer with us. These guys have maintained. Now, I know a lot of people like to say, well, outside of Fresno, they're not a threat, or they're not doing this, or they're not doing that. We're not talking about the outside of Fresno. We're talking about the inside, where they have maintained. Now, I did the video the other day, and I said, Bulldogs basically control Fresno, and a gang of brothers got at me like, nah, they don't control Fresno. We got our hoods in Fresno too. And let me correct myself in saying the Bulldogs control their people inside of Fresno. Okay, I know the brothers, Six Deuce Diamond, shout outs, respects, several different other groups and gangs, Asians and blacks that are in Fresno, man, definitely are wiggling. And they got their little spots. They got their designated areas, and they're handling their business, right? There's no doubt about that. Fresno's very grimy. It's situational. You go to a wrong place, you're going to find yourself in a situation. That's a fact. I know because I've been there. I've been involved in it. I've seen it. Having lived 45 minutes, 55 minutes away, you know, we used to go to the mall. We used to go pull up at Fresno State Bulldog games. You know, this is way back in the day, so I know how tricky it can get on the east side and the west side and the north and all that park side. I know, believe me. And I know a lot of Bulldogs, and we're actually friends, you know. So Faith 300 pulls up, and it seemed like more of an interrogation. Some of these questions he was asking weren't focused on Faith 300's music, if you notice. And maybe there will be more parts, because Adam likes to cut shit up and put out more parts. So maybe there will be more parts, maybe mainly focused on this kid's music. But for the most part, it seemed like it was more focused on the background of the Bulldogs, the gang aspect of it. And I've noticed that Adam 15's channel, and notice it keeps going younger, 16, 15. It'll be 14 in a minute, right? But you notice how it becomes more so about the hood and the barrio and the street credibility of the Bulldogs and crimes and things that they're into, more so than about promoting this kid's music and what he's got coming next, albums and concerts and things of that nature. But I'm not surprised, because this is how it was with Lazy Boy and bands, and this is how it was with Tone. Well, Tone checked that shit, so it wasn't too much like that with Tone. And it's been like that with Lefty Gunplay, whereas Adam's going to ask the questions people want to hear. And that's a fact. I can't knock him for that. You know, the drama. It's all about the drama. Now, I thought Faith 300 carried himself well, but you know, he's a little bit different. He's from a different generation. You know, the N-word was thrown around quite a lot. And it's crazy because in the Central Valley, where the Bulldogs are from, where Fresno is located, you know, back in my days, the N-word was not used. It wasn't utilized like it is now. That was more of a Bay Area swag. And I understood it being a Bay Area swag because in the Bay, the Norteños, the Chicanos, the Raza in the Bay grew up with blacks hand in hand. A lot of black and brown going on in the Bay. They functioned together. They shared the same neighborhood, same turf politics, all that. So the usage of the N-word was pretty prevalent. It was happening a lot. I remember when I was in prison, man, homeboys would come from Oakland, Frisco, Richmond, all that. And they used the N-word heavy. And they would get checked on it. Some of them, right? Not all of them. You know, there would be homeboys like, hey, bro, you know, why you acting black? And I always said, no, bro. I'd put my 2 cents in. They're not acting black. They're a product of their environment, bro. Ain't nothing wrong with it if that's how they choose to rock. You know, I myself, I was never around that. The use of the N-word wasn't like that in the Central Valley. Central Valley was more raza and more cultura and more cholo estilo, right? That's just how it was back then. But I know things have changed. You know, this hip hop era, the social media era, everything's taken the place of our culture. Our culture is getting put on the back burner by everyone, North, South, and Bulldogs. So when I heard him saying the N-word a lot, Anyone that knows me knows my channel. I don't condone it. I don't like it. I don't like Mexicans to say the N-word. I don't like blacks to say the N-word. To me, I feel like it's just an ignorant, derogatory term that was utilized to defecate on one's character. And I feel like there's a lot of old school brothers, man. And I know for a fact because I got laced up by one that told me, man, he didn't like his people saying that. And so I've never been an advocate or a big fan of the N-word, right? So hearing him say it is kind of harsh on the ears, especially being from the Central Valley. Like, that wasn't our get down ever. And I'm not speaking from a north, south, or bulldog perspective. I'm saying from a Mexican side, right? Period. We just never did that. But to each their own. That's how it is nowadays. You know, I got young homies in my hood that say it. You know, it's just a bad look, you know, to me. You know, and even when I heard Southerners saying it for the first time, that really blew my fucking mind because they go at it with the brothers so much in prison, more so than the Northerners or anyone else, that you would think that they would distance themselves from any type of speech pattern that has anything to do with the brothers, man, and vice versa. The brothers would feel that way too, but it's just different now. All these kids think they can get away with saying the N-word. They think it's cool. It makes them look cool, or whatever. You know, I don't know the psychological shit that's going on behind their head saying it. Whatever. So I heard him saying the N-word a lot. I was like, I didn't really care for that. But he's going to speak how he speaks. Now, when he started to mention some of the politics about the Bulldogs, again, when it comes to North and South, you have to watch what you say. Okay? Because you will be checked. You will be accountable for everything you say. There's always going to be someone of status, someone above you, man, that's going to question if you said too much or you didn't. So you have to carry yourself with a bit of professionalism. And there's a standard when it comes to politics of what you can and cannot say on the internet. That's a fact, right? Now with the Bulldogs, they don't have that same structure. That's the reason they left the Norteño movement in the first place, is so they can get away from that structure. You know, so they're kind of like on some renegade shit where they do and say whatever the hell they want to say, right? And it's been like that for decades. So it's quite understandable when this young kid gets up there and is giving basically Adam the rundown on some of the Bulldog politics. You know, I heard in this video that he dropped how he talked about, you know, how not all Bulldogs get along, how some hoods go at it. And best believe law enforcement and people are watching, hoping that they can get a crumb, a chicken nugget up out of this, right? That maybe this can lead to letting them know something they don't know about beefs or whatever. And I liked how Adam tried to pull teeth. And when he tried to pull the dog's canines out, what he tried to do was instigate North and South and Bulldog beef by mentioning North and South when it came to the Bulldogs. You know, everybody and their mom already knows Bulldogs are independent of North and South and they're the opposition. Okay, it's not a fucking a mystery there. It's not unspoken. Everybody knows that they're segregated in prisons away from North and South because of the animosity, and basically they're the opposition to the two groups, right? And they've been like that for a long time. So Adam continually tried to apply that pressure so that way this youngster would disrespect. But he carried himself with integrity and did not disrespect North and South and refer to them as the other side or them other guys or the enemies or the ops or whatever, right? Respectable. You know, I think a lot of these guys that are going on Adam's channel nowadays are starting to learn not to disrespect someone else, because it's not a good look. Now, if you don't give a fuck and you don't care what others think, then do you. You know, but there's going to be repercussions for every action. Now, as far as Adam sitting down with Bulldogs, he can do whatever the fuck he wants. Let's put that out there. He can invite anybody that he wants to his platform. He has every right to ask whatever question he wants. It's up to the guy answering the question whether he's going to answer it correctly or not. That's a fact. Now, as far as myself being mentioned, saying that, you know, I did a video about Faith 300's father, absolutely, and I'm not done yet. Because, see, there's a lot of different videos and a lot of different things coming in the future of shit that is situations that happened while incarcerated in the youth authority and prison. And Shorty played a very instrumental part in a big incident that happened, you know, in Fred C. Nellis when I was down there. And I'm going to retell that story in detail coming up pretty soon. Now that you guys have gotten a kind of a visual or an understanding of who Shorty is. So best believe that's coming eventually, right? Because I was right there in La Caja when it happened. And, I need to clarify some of the things because people don't understand back in them days, when the Bulldogs and the Norteños broke off, from where I was at, that historical moment, it was different. It was different in every institution, every place. But what we were dealing with there was the Bulldogs were more focused on each other and basically hitting their homeboys that did not let the red paño go. Now, I heard Whack 100 the other day said, I've seen the Bulldogs turning their red rag, right? They ain't never turning their red paños. Their red paños have a different meaning. The Bulldogs always have maintained them colors. I know some of them like college wear black rags and these different things to distinguish themselves from different hoods. That's hood shit. But as a whole, the Bulldogs still are flamed up. It's always going to be like that. It doesn't mean Norte. They have it's the colors of their mascot in Fresno State, and that's just how they rock, right? So, I got called last night. They were like, hey, they mentioned you, right? And I wasn't surprised, and I was like, you know what? Did they disrespect me? But you know what I tripped on was I felt like Adam was trying to discredit me. Tell me if I'm wrong. Because he mentioned Merced, the city I'm from, a few different times, and tried to make a comparison to Fresno, right? To which Faith 300 said, oh, no, Merced ain't rocking like Fresno. And let me explain to you. Merced is not even a quarter of the size of Fresno, right? Fresno is a very big city in the Central Valley, one of the biggest cities in the valley, right? Merced's not less than 100,000 people. It's not on a comparison to Fresno. Of course, there's going to be more crime, more grimy shit going on, more shootings and murders and things. But in comparison to the size, Merced will smack some shit. Been smacking some shit. But I felt like Adam, because Adam watches the videos. Anytime his name is mentioned, of course, it's human nature to want to see what people say about you. So he knows where I'm from. So I think he kept making that comparison because one of two reasons. One reason, because I think he was trying to get me mentioned where he could discredit me having known Faith 300's father and maybe just making up stories. Hey, the lie detector test determined, Adam, that was a try, but it wasn't a lie, right? The second thing is I think because Merced is a very notorious city for murders and things that happen, that Adam was just trying to make that comparison based on because these are the bigger cities in that area. And the fact remains, man, I give Fresno all their props. If you are into the killing and the maims and the murders and the rapes and the crazy shit, right? And yeah, Merced's not going to be compared to that level. It's a smaller city, but we hold our own. I'll say that. Or they hold their own. I'm not there no more, so it just is what it is. But when I was, right, we can't speak on that. But so my 2 cents on this pull-up was it was conducted so far so good, what I've seen professionally, and there's so much hatred I'm seeing in the comments. So many people discrediting the looks of Faith 300. Oh, he's just a little skinny guy. Oh, he's just a little fella. He's just this and that. Size doesn't matter. Because let me tell you, his dad was this tall and was smacking shit. Okay? His dad was shorty, but he was going to smack your whole head off. So it doesn't matter about size. I've never judged anyone based off size. I judge people and base people off, and who am I to judge? But I judge them on the content of the character, how respectful they are in front of me, and their mentality. Because everyone got some knowledge you can't get in college. They just happen to have some knowledge you can get on College Street. It's a fact. People ridicule and constantly belittle and try to defame the Bulldog movement and what they got going on. And I'm here to tell you, man, having been their adversary for over 20 years, right, when I was active in doing it, never once did I disrespect them vatos. Did I call them up out of their name? I called it what it was because I knew what they were about. Because at one point in time, these were my camaradas and my homeboys that I rocked with side by side. So how can just because they broke off and are no longer functioning with Norteños, how can I say, oh, they're punks or they're suckers or they're scary? Nah, Charlie humps. They weren't scared enough to fucking go against the grain. If anything, I got to respect that, right? Now, whatever the administration chooses to do with them in prison and keep them segregated, that's the administration's decision. That has more to do with prison politics. It has nothing to do with the heart or the mentality of these vatos. They're still raza. They're still with the functions. They'll still wiggle on your ass. Facts. There's some knowledge you can't get in college. As far as pulling up to Adam and No Jumper, I'm not surprised. And I think a lot more people are going to pull up. But for the people that are talking shit, oh, these guys look corny, these guys look that, that's just more so a way to disrespect. That's the way I took it. That's the way I see it. You know, I've been asked many times, Gunner, will you go on No Jumper? No. First of all, I'm not invited. I don't intend to be invited, and I don't want to be invited. And I have my reasonings. You know, I truly and honestly believe that that whole shit is suspect, that it's a setup. You know, and to see Raza getting their shine and going on there, I'm happy for them. I'm not hating. I'm glad Mexicans are getting they're getting their shine, but there's so many other platforms they can go on and get shine as well. But, you know, I guess Adam's one of the bigger ones on the West Coast and that has a name. So far, I want to say this to Adam directly because I know you're going to watch this, puto. This is what I want to say. I got to give Adam this much respect because at least for the safety and security of these guys that he's bringing on there. You know, because let's be honest. Let's be real. You know, if the Southsiders really wanted to, they can go sit down, pull up, and do whatever the fuck they want. That's their area, their backyard. So whatever Adam's doing to facilitate these conversations, these interviews in his building, man, and bring these guys in, respect for not giving up their locations and putting them on the spot and putting them in a bad situation. Now, there was one guy got at me, they pulled up 15 deep, the Bulldogs. There was some outside, some inside. For safety and security reasons, they were on point. 15 vatos ain't shit, bro. We're talking about vatos will pull up 155 deep. You know, it's just, I've been to Southern California. I know what it is. You know, I'm sure Adam remembers when the Southsiders pulled up 100 deep, you know, with Bozo and American Cholo and all that. So it ain't nothing to get 100 homies together and do their thing, right? But I got to commend Adam on the way he's been conducting these interviews as far as the safety and security measures he's taking to make sure there's no drama like that. No one gets smacked. Because best believe, man, there's people that feel a certain type of way. And there's people that are feeling that type of way about Adam bringing their enemies and their oppositions into their backyard. You know, it ain't cool. It definitely ain't cool. You know, I remember when chicks used to try to bring the opposition into our backyard. Them and the chicks had to go. You know, we were not playing. We were pulling up quick as soon as we found out about some shit. So, I mean, I understand the whole get down with that and people feeling the way they do. But until someone presses or until something happens, we're going to leave that where it lies. Now, as far as the Bulldogs, there's a lot of people talking about them dudes that went up there weren't a good representation of the Bulldogs. I challenge Adam to get an old school F-14er on there. I challenge Adam to, if you want to learn the history from someone who lived it, man, then don't just take one approach and listen to one side. Because I'll give Faith 300 all the props, man. I love his music. The Vato goes, right? His father forever will have my respects because I fought side by side with them. So I know what it is, right? And gracias for recognizing Faith 300 that I did do a video on your father respectfully and that I do show the Bulldogs love because it's a truth, right? But I want to see an old school F-14er pull up, Adam, and really give you some knowledge you can't get in college, some history. You know, let's see that. Because these guys nowadays, these kids nowadays have a different type of mentality than we did in the background. Where we were planting flags and setting precedents and laying down demos. These kids nowadays will smack everybody's shit just based off what they think, not what they know. You know, so that's what it is. As far as the interview, my perspective on it, it was a good, decent interview. I felt it could have went a little bit better, but again, that was only one part of it. But again, respect to the Fresno Bulldogs. You guys did that. They pulled up. You got to give them that. You know, oh, he's a little skinny, ugly looking guy, right? But that little skinny motherfucker pulled up, man. You know, hey, it's not about who wins or loses. It's about who pulls up. With that being said, off the Chamus move with a purpose. Get everything that you want coming. Remember, at the end of the day, it's about the strive to struggle, the struggle to strive. I recorded a Super Norteño yesterday for the other channel. Just want to let you guys know they don't want to turn it green. They keep making it yellow for whatever reason. So this is what I'm going to do. I feel that the context of that content right there was a little grimy. I went in. I'm going to have to pull it down because or just leave it up and put it under review. But I will be recording another one today for you guys. I got you. The gun. Bang, bang.